Hey there, I'm Dan Hollifield, and welcome to Last Man Standing. Yes, I apologize for the old schedule card for Rising Tide. I have yet to update any of the four different Rising Tide adverts that I've got going in the channel. Uh, I've been busy writing. I got a book finished and sent it off to my publisher. I haven't had time. I'm working on the next book. I haven't had time to go back and re-edit the videos for StreamYard. So I do apologize, but you get the general gist. Uh, Rising Tide Broadcasting Network has stuff on every night of the week. No matter what your interests are, you're sure to find something, especially if you like comic books, because there are a lot of comic shows about comic books on Rising Tide. And with no further words from me, let me bring in Chris here, and we'll get started with whatever random topic of conversation we can top stupid o'clock with. And I think that's going to be hard to do because that was some interesting stuff tonight.
Yes, it was. Always fun when Zach gets to join in on the show.
Hmm. Yep.
His knowledge of all the space activity going on between the various groups and entities that are now seeming to take over the spotlight and NASA's absentia from doing too much.
Yeah, too much. That's the operating term. I'm wondering whether or not I have forgotten to do an update upgrade to the operating system here on this computer because I keep seeing flashes like I've been imitating uh, something from the Incredibles here, and I've been jumping up out of my seat and sitting back down real quick. Uh, I don't know what it is. It may just be my internet connection. It's not the greatest in the world, but the processor speed on this computer is fast enough to where it does make up for a lot of the bandwidth that I pay for that is not given to me.
Yes.
Mm.
You would think they would invest some money in their infrastructure, but apparently they're not really doing much of that.
They are rather famous for not doing that. The only time they actually make an upgrade is when they get bought out by another company. And
And
the
that hasn't happened in a while.
no, not in a while. I mean, they've only changed names three times in the last 25 years.
Well, they originally changed the name because they sold off their um, general telephone business,
Hmm.
and their wireless business merged with Verizon. That would
This is
be
true.
Alltel, aka Atlantic Telephone. Then they became Windstream, and then
There
uh,
are kinetic.
yeah, they're trying to do like Comcast does with Infinity. Changing the name to try and improve the image, or like Charter does with Spectrum. You know, when you're overpaying for stuff that's not the quality you expect out of them, and you have to change your names to try and improve your image, that's never a good thing.
That's never a good thing. No. And another thing, once it became kinetic, I had to start using my Windstream email at least once every 3 months,
Yeah.
or they would turn off my Windstream email address and I
Yeah.
would no longer be able to send email. I can receive it just fine because that's coming from
Hmm.
AmericaNet, but sending has to go through Windstream.
Mm.
Hello, Nita. How you doing?
Hey, Nita.
You want to jump in? We can send you a link.
Yep. Enjoy having you on here.
Really, it'd be interesting. Um,
Not just interesting, fun.
oh, well, yeah. Nita is synonymous with fun. And we'd be able to cuss.
Oh hell, man! You know we can do that perfectly fine on our own. It's just
Yes,
more
I know.
fun when
My
she's involved.
my problem is stopping it. Oh, okay. You got the same problem that Keisha has.
Yeah,
Well,
they're restless.
restless child syndrome.
Yep.
Hmm. Yep. Well, I don't know if I actually got a chance to say this in Stupid O'Clock. I know I mentioned it before the show, but this afternoon we were going to take the trash off to the landfill, which we do about every 2 weeks or so,
Mm,
because we sort out the uh, landfill trash from the recycling. And
yes.
basically, the recycling builds up much quicker than the
Yeah.
landfill. So we were out there loading up the van, or I was out there loading up the van. Lindsay was still packing up stuff, getting it out of the cabinet that we keep the recycling in. And I heard a funny noise. It was like uh, wood creaking in the wind.
Hmm.
And I couldn't see a cause for it. And I went back in and got the second load of recycling and brought it back out and still heard it. Couldn't figure out what it was. Went and got the actual trash, emptied the outdoor trash cans into the trash bags and loading them in the van. And then I saw the cause of the noise. There's like a 8 to 10 inch diameter pine tree that broke off about a foot and a half, 2 feet from the ground, and
Mm,
luckily fell into a sweet gum tree right next to it. Otherwise, we would have gotten up this morning to find that an 8 to 10 inch pine tree would have fallen across my van and Lindsay's car and the
ooh.
entrance to the front porch.
Oh man, you got lucky.
We got really well. Lindsay was saying, God blessed us that day, and I'm intending to agree. Yeah, that happened the way it did, and we moved the cars out of the way,
Hmm.
um, and I went to go and speak to the fellow whose property the pine tree is actually growing out of, because
Hmm.
it's about 4 feet from the property line.
Hmm.
Well, no, it's actually about 6 feet from the property line,
Mm.
but nobody was home. So
Yeah.
he's got a tractor, and I think he's probably got a logging chain.
Hmm.
And I was going to ask him to get into the field there, even though it's overgrown with blackberry briars,
Hmm.
and try and pull the thing to the side so that it would fall where it didn't hit anything.
Hmm.
I could not get in touch with him. I called my mom. My brother's got the family tractor, and unfortunately, the tires have dry rotted, and I'd have to replace all four tires on a big Ford tractor. So
Mm.
that ain't happening. I don't have an extra $2,000 to spare.
How big of a Ford tractor is it?
It's mid range. It's about 36 horsepower. It's
Hmm.
I believe it's a 4600.
Okay, so it reminds me of my dad's Massey Ferguson 230.
Hmm.
It's got like 36 horse.
It's a good decent. It will pull a good size
Hmm.
bottom plow. Now we had a little we had a 3600, a 4600, and a 7600.
Hmm.
And the 7600 actually had a turbo boost or turbo in it, where
Yeah.
you pop that sucker online and you got an extra 20 horsepower out of it without having to make
Mm.
any modifications to the engine. That would pull a 12-foot wide chisel plow that was going 3 feet down in the ground,
Wow.
and that had some pulling power. But
Man.
when Dad retired from farming, he sold the little tractor and sold the big tractor and kept the midsize.
Mm.
But that's just it's one of those things. My brother has been using the tractor and trying to take care of it, but he has not been taking it back over to mom's house and putting it in the barn.
Mhm.
And it's been quite a while since there's been any new tires put on it. And parking anything with the tires touching the dirt, you're going to get dry rot. And
Mm.
that's what's happened, and it's going to be real expensive to put new tires on the thing. So
Yeah.
tomorrow I am going to go to Lowe's and get a come along and about 100 feet of nice thick nylon rope,
Mhm.
and try and put my ladder up against the sweet gum tree and get up high enough to get some good leverage on the pine tree,
Mhm.
tie off to it, then loop that around another tree off to the side, hook that up to a come along on a third tree, to where when I'm pulling the tree, I'm nowhere near where it will fall,
Yeah.
and try and pull it out of the sweet gum tree and let it drop someplace harmless.
Yeah.
Now, I don't mind spending the money, and the rope and the come along are not going to be uh, wasted after this one particular job, but I
Yeah.
cannot wait for somebody else to come to the rescue. If I don't have the right tools, I'm going to have to make a usable tool out of
Yeah.
what I can get lay my hands on. So, I have seen people use this tie off the tree wrapped around another tree to the side of where you're actually going to be working a block and tackle or a come along or a winch or whatever. And basically, that's the safest way I can think of doing it. That'll, even if it does happen to fall in the cactus garden, the yucca trees are going to grow back. I mean, you can't kill those things. Might actually get two or three new ones out of it if it splits a couple of them. But if there's a long enough limb that it is actually resting on in the sweet gum tree, I should be able to move it 2 or 3 feet, and then it will be able to fall in a safe location, no damage. So we got really, really lucky that that pine tree went into the sweet gum tree, and that was providence right there. So and let's see, what was that you just sent? Da, da, da.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help but laughing. I'm like, I gotta send this to Dad.
Yeah, that's a brush cutter, all right. Yep. Yeah, trade for prosthetic leg. Uh-huh. I I haven't got that pulled up on this computer, or I'd show it, but let me
Yeah,
see.
I will share that with Stupid O'Clock before tomorrow's over with. Oh
Oh,
man, that just popped up in my news feed because I was getting to where I was going to watch the video because I have my phone on silent, but I watch the video that way I can see anybody that crops up. That
uh-huh. Uh, let let's let's see if this will work. I do believe it will. Let's see, one more click to click, and then we go. There you go. Yep. That's not exactly the tool that I need, and somebody needed it, and then discovered. Yeah, that was you might be a redneck idea. I wouldn't. I would use that on tree stumps. I wouldn't use that cutting brush.
no, but it would work on stuff that's
It looks like it'd
too
work on.
thick for pruning shears. Even the
It,
bigger pruning shears.
it looks like it would work on just about anything.
Yeah,
Oh
because
heavens!
and it will probably work better than a chainsaw because you're got a bigger motor and it's a four stroke as opposed to a two stroke.
And you don't have to stop and lengthen the blade as the chain gets warm and stretches.
Yep.
You just don't walk in front of it.
Exactly.
Hmm. When I was talking about making tools, I remembered that back in the day, I used to put new brakes on all the vehicles that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And on disc brakes, you know how you have to squeeze the hydraulic cylinders of the calipers apart so that you can get
Mm-hmm.
the brake shoes out. I actually made a tool for to do exactly that. I took a pair of channel lock pliers,
Mm-hmm.
unbolted the hinge, put them together backwards so that when you press the handle, it pushed the jaws apart.
Mm.
And I could put that in there with some old metal plates from old brake shoes that had been
Mm-hmm.
worn out. Just chip the what was left of the brake paddle race, so it was just the backing plates. And go ahead and squeeze that thing with the feed the bleed valve open,
Mm-hmm.
so it would squirt the brake fluid out. And every time, it didn't even take much muscle. It just all the way out, tighten the bleed valve down so it wouldn't suck air in it.
Yeah.
Go ahead and put the new brake pads on, reattach the caliper with brake pads. Unfortunately, bleeding brakes is still a two-person job. You've got to have somebody pump the brakes and hold them down
Mm-hmm.
while you bleed any possible air bubbles out of the brake line, get the
Mm-hmm.
pressure right. And it's one of those things where one person cannot do it without even more redneck engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, now, if I had to, I could probably figure out a way to pump the brakes and then put a concrete block or, a breeze, not a breeze block, but a solid pad
Mm-hmm.
block, something that was really heavy
Yeah.
to hold the brake pedal in place. But I wouldn't, that would be very clumsy. It,
Either that or a thick concrete block that was, like one of those flat ones with the holes spaced really close together, because that would be heavy enough and probably narrow enough where it could cover the brake pedal without going over
Mhm.
into the gas clutch, if you
uh, Nita's daddy does the job somehow with C clamps. Yep, I could see
will.
exactly how to do that. Yep. Uh, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
My brain did not think that way, but it's a perfectly viable alternative. Um,
Nita,
now,
did you see that picture that Dan posted a while ago?
the one with the stump cutter, in both senses of the word.
Yeah.
Mm. Oh heavens!
Yeah,
Uh,
he's gonna sell it for $50 or trade for a prosthetic leg.
Now I actually worked with a guy that got a long extension to go on his uh, electric drill
Mm-hmm.
and put a skill saw blade on the end of it and use that for a weed eater with no guard on it whatsoever.
Wow.
And he's still got both feet.
He's lucky.
He's coordinated, is what he is.
That too.
He's nowhere near as clumsy as I am. Uh, the most creative thing I've ever done with a skill saw blade is strip the rust off of it and paint it up. But well, one year I didn't have a budget to do family Christmas presents, so I had a bunch of old saw blades. I stripped the rust off of them, put a coat of white paint on them to use as a primer, and then I did oil paintings on them.
No.
Usually Christmas churchyard scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So I wound up, I did about 6 or 8 of these things, and I used what I remembered of different churches that different bits, different folks in my family had gone to, and I had gone to.
Mm-hmm.
So these were, uh, well, I don't want to say historically accurate, but they were accurate to the recipient that was their church.
They were uh, symbolically representative of.
Hmm. And I did get creative with one that was uh, really a very simple, plain and n- not ostentatious church. And they just happened to have a little pond nearby,
Mm-hmm.
and I put Santa Claus ice skating on the little pond. So that was a cute one. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah, she did see it. Yeah, that's some redneck engineering, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you should
We
see some
tend to
of the
get
things.
resourceful when we have to.
Oh, yeah.
What is the saying? Necessity is the mother of all invention.
Hmm. At one time, Daddy and I were stringing 4 strands of barbed wire uh, along the perimeter of a 100-acre piece of land,
Mm-hmm.
and we needed a fence stretcher. So Daddy got a couple of 2x4s, drilled some holes in them, put some bolts through them, and put some clamps on it. Not C clamps, but it was something attached to it to where you could actually put a come along on there, or a block and tackle,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and stretch all 4 strands of barbed wire at one time, and walk to the fence posts and put staples in,
Mm-hmm.
and not be afraid of anything slipping, or not be afraid of having anything not tensioned correctly, so that the fence would really work well. The tricky part was remembering the traditional method of bracing up a corner post so that the fence going around the corner did not make it lean inwards.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, Daddy knew that one. I would not have been able to figure it out myself, but then I was about 12 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
My grasp of redneck engineering was not firmly up in place. I could see a few things, but I didn't know exactly how to explain what I was envisioning.
Yeah, but you know that's understandable at that age.
Hmm. When it came time to put the chain link fence up around our dog pen,
Mm-hmm.
I did the same thing. I got me 2 long 2x4s, drilled some holes through it, and I did use C clamps, and I used a bunch of them,
Mm-hmm.
and attached a come along, since I didn't have a block and tackle,
Yeah.
and tensioned that sucker, and then went and put the little tie offs on all the posts, and the top bar and the bottom bar, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Let the tension off, and it was actually fairly easy to do about 20 feet at a time, and not cause the fence to concertina smaller than it was supposed to be. And it was tensioned really well for what I was doing. It's, I wouldn't trust it to hold cattle in,
Yeah.
but it keep coyotes out of the yard and keep the dogs in. And now that the dogs are gone, the cats have figured out how to get out and get back in
Mm-hmm.
whenever they want. That's the trouble with having gates. There's a hole you don't think anything could get in or out of.
Mm-hmm.
Small, that's bigger than a squirrel, and I promise you, a cat will find a way to go through that hole.
They are contortion artists.
And they are very intelligent, I tell you. I mean,
Yeah, that's
I would not want to try and figure out which was smarter, a dog or a cat. I think they're pretty damn equal, um,
they're
just in
smarter in
different
different ways.
directions.
Yeah.
Just in different directions.
Of course, there's there's dumb dogs and dumb cats too. I mean,
Mm. Well,
we
yeah,
I used to have what I called a stoner cat. Um,
I
but,
believe I can relate. One that's so laid back, they ought to be smoking something.
yeah, and Blake was he was just like, hey, dude. You know, he wasn't talkative, but you know, he had that look. He
Hmm.
sort of reminded me of if you ever watched Finding Nemo.
Hmm.
Do you remember the turtle? Like you're on the EAC, dude.
Yeah.
That's how I envision Flake. Now the thing
Hmm.
about Flake is he didn't look it, but when he stretched out, he was about 4 feet long, and he was very laid back and you know just kind of in a daze and a doze and all that.
Hmm.
But if you weren't looking and you were getting ready to prepare some chicken,
You
that
might have a
cat
little
can
bit
move.
less chicken than you had to start with.
That cat can move quicker than you ever thought possible.
Well, thankfully, Diddles has not got into the food, but Lindsay will buy a packet of catnip and sprinkle it around for all the cats to get into.
Lord.
And he is just the most absolutely laid back cat. And she swears up and down. She'll sprinkle out the catnip, and he'll wander over and sniff at it, give her a look that says, "Got any rolling papers?"
Well, you remember my yellow cat made an appearance last Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had I say small, it's probably a 3 inch by 3 inch little bag of catnip.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't realize it, but he got into it one day.
I bet it. I bet it didn't take long to figure out. It was either Zoomies or, oh man, I can't get up. You want to play some Allman Brothers and get me energized?
Almond Brothers wouldn't, and it was the exact opposite. He was hiring a damn kite,
Oh,
but
Zoomies. Okay, yeah.
it wasn't stone higher. It was almost like he's on speed.
Hmm. Well, it does affect different cats different ways.
Yeah,
Uh, some of them just get the munchies. You know, there's no other effect. They eat every food bowl dry and then
yeah,
ask for more. You know they're going to be sick in the morning. But,
yeah. One of my artist friends, she she'll post cat related stuff. Um, one of them, um, the last one I remember seeing, I saw earlier today. There is a glass that's half full, and it says the optimist says a glass that is half full. The pessimist sees that it's half empty. The cat sees that the bowl is empty, and their person is trying to starve them and rob them of life and enjoyment.
if it was still the same half glass, the cat would see something he ain't had a chance to knock over yet.
Yeah.
Let
Well,
me at it.
now uh, there was another post where she posted. Uh, picture of her cat that turned a year old, and I found a GIF where a cat's got a birthday cake and it slaps it into the wall and splatters it all over the place.
Oh, Lord. Oh,
Because there was a
yep.
cute one with a cat with a cake and a candle, and it's one of those, cats with a lot of floof on it.
Yeah,
And it was adorable. And I'm like, well, somebody already used it. I'll use the smart ass one.
that's not quite the one I was searching for. Yeah, they're amazing and annoying. And
They're adorable.
yeah, absolutely.
And they know it because that's why you don't kill them.
Sometimes that's the only reason.
Yes. I can't remember this comedian, but he used to crack me up. And I'm sure he's gone because he was probably in his mid to late 50s when this was like late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
And he was on A Night at the Improv, the syndicated show.
Hmm.
He was a ventriloquist and he had a duck. And the duck was sort of like Yankee Doodle with the
Mm.
voice, sort of a cross between it and Disco Duck.
Yeah.
And it was funny because he'd go a little bit too far, and then the duck would make this face like, I'm just a baby duck.
I do believe I remember that.
Oh, it was hilarious.
Oh, here you go. I found the picture. That's Diddles. He's sitting up on a little 2 foot wide shelf that has vases and jars and flowers and all kind of stuff on it. He knows he's not supposed to be up there, but he's up there. And
Mm-hmm.
the caption is question authority. You might not get away with it, but then again, if you never try, you'll never succeed.
Yep. That's a pretty cat.
Oh, he's beautiful. He's one of those. He looks like he's part Maine Coon, very long
Mm-hmm.
hair, but um, when he gets wet, he's just normal cat size under that fur.
Yeah.
But he's about 14 years old now,
Yeah.
uh, along
Now,
with along with all the rest of his brothers and sisters, and he's still got. I don't even know the genealogy here. It's either two aunts or a mom and an aunt still alive.
mm,
They're about 15 or 15, 16 years old.
yeah.
So we've got two of the older generation left out of the four, and then um, I think it is 11 of the 16 that were the original four litters at one time.
Well,
Yeah. Uh, they are all fixed now, except for one male, and he's really upset about it because
yep. You took away his fun time.
no, I didn't. He's the only one that didn't get fun time took away.
Yeah.
But
But I meant the ones he could have fun with.
well, I mean,
Less
practice
the
makes
stray that
perfect. But
wanders around. But yeah.
yeah, there are plenty of strays wandering up out of the woods. Lindsay's adopted. Um, well, right now, there's one that became ours, and there are three or four that wouldn't come in the pen, wouldn't come on
Mhm.
the screened in porch, One of those went off to the neighbors and has been adopted and been fixed, and he's now an
Mm-hmm.
indoor cat over there. And the others wander up from time to time, but they are absolutely feral.
Mm.
Uh, they they will stand there and eat out of the food bowl alongside a possum and a raccoon, but they will not let you pick them up or pet them or get within 3 or 4 feet of them. They'll run off.
Mm.
But oh yeah, right now we had been leaving the door to the screened-in porch propped open so that any cats that got out of the chain link fence into the
Mm-hmm.
yard would be able to get up on the front porch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a raccoon that was coming up on the front porch and emptying out the food bowls and climbing in the chain link fence and emptying out the food bowls. And Lindsay finally figured it out. So she started putting less food, just enough that the cats in the pen would be able to eat before dark. And the ones on the front porch, she started shutting the door and putting a little bowl of cat food outside for the raccoon so it wouldn't claw its way through the screen.
Mm.
And it's a big old raccoon. Uh, I've got great grandchildren that are not as tall when that thing stands up on his hind legs. It's a healthy boy.
Yeah.
And real pretty, real pretty. Got good manners. I'm not going to go close, but did not start any fights with the cats.
Well,
Um,
that's good.
yeah, for something that just wandered out of the woods that doesn't want to start fighting with everything around it, that's a well-behaved animal right there. We've got far fewer coyotes now than we have had in the past. I'm glad to say. Some of the local folks have thinned the herd quite a bit, or the pack to be more accurate, since they are canine. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but we've seen there was a little tiny red fox that was running around outside the chain link fence there one day. Beautiful little thing. It had to be young because it wasn't all that big. I mean, it was just barely the size of one of the grown
Mm-hmm.
cats. It wasn't dog size at all. And then one year we made the mistake of leaving some a bag of potting soil out near the shed outside the chain link fence. Lindsay
Mm-hmm.
went to get a couple of scoops of potting soil to put in a flower pot, and a whole family of armadillos boiled out of the other end of the bag. Scared her to death. I mean, they're kind of cute too, but they
Mm.
it is possible for armadillos to carry the virus or the germ that causes
Mm-hmm.
um, leprosy. So we know
Mm-hmm.
better than to pick one up.
Yeah.
And next door neighbor used to have a koi pond. Then they got up one morning and there wasn't a single fish in the koi pond, but there were bear tracks all around the pond.
Mm.
One of my buddies from high school, he goes out regularly and harvests wild boar in the woods around this same area. I mean, it's not close to where we're at now, but I wouldn't I wouldn't doubt that there are feral hogs in the woods behind the house. Um, Deer all over the place.
Mm.
We had one come up, was eating muscadimes that had fermented on the vine in the backyard.
Mm.
That thing stood there, and I got within about 8 feet of it before it noticed I was there, and then it staggered off into the woods instead of running. She was drunk, let me tell you.
Now you got me thinking about Yellowbeard. Did you ever watch it? Graham
Uh,
Chapman of Monty Python,
oh yeah, yeah.
where he was trying to remember the map because he forgot what he'd done with it, and it was stagger, 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 crawl, crawl, and he's going back and forth. When you said stagger, it automatically brought that up in my head.
Hmm. Oh Lord.
That was a good
Uh,
one.
yeah. Uh, it's amazing. There's a lot of things that Python and Fireside Theater and a lot of other groups have done that we were privileged to experience back during the day, or at least catch it on a repeat performance.
Yeah,
And there's some in jokes today that a lot of people don't know the reference, but they still laugh when they hear the joke.
yes.
And, it's
That
kind of
was.
neat to have lived during a time when that was new
Oh
and
yeah,
just happening. But then again, there's the joy that you get when somebody else uh, discovers it for the first time, and
oh yeah.
they're telling you about how great it is, and you go, "Yeah, I know." Try not
Well,
to ruin it for them, but yeah,
the running joke in college is it's always interesting when somebody new discovers Monty Python for the first time. They're like, "Oh, this is great." Yeah, we know.
yep. Wait till you see Red Dwarf.
Hmm.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love that. They actually tried twice to turn that into an American TV series, and the pilot failed both times because they Americanized it.
Yeah,
Basically, some of those jokes only work in British English, not American English. No,
yeah,
the they do not cross cultures. Will let me put it that way.
yeah. Well, the funny thing about it is British humor in particular. It requires you to know certain historical facts, and if you don't know those, you're not going to get the jokes and the humor as well.
Hmm. I am noticing that actually in uh, Terry Pratchett's Discworld books. There are what turned out to be historical references that I thought were just things he had made up,
Hmm.
just a general, mm, as my knowledge base increases, I am finding more and more things that he actually pulled from British history. So,
Yes.
I was not aware of it before because that's not my culture, but the man really did uh, manage to pull a lot of diverse elements together to work his magic with the written word. And
No doubt.
41 books in the Discworld series, and he also has some other stuff that is equally as good in a different direction. If you have not discovered Terry Pratchett yet, it is highly recommended by not only me but some 100 million people that have been buying his books. I mean, he would sell 50 million copies of every blasted book.
Yeah.
Lord, if I could succeed that well, woo.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Yep, that would be the dream right there. I'm doing real well with just getting what success I've gotten. So
Yeah, but you're getting to do something you enjoy, and there's been a number of people. It may not be in the millions that he's had, but who enjoy your stuff. So
Yeah,
That's
I'm
a
grateful for that too. I'm grateful to be able to make that connection with people, and have them enjoy the work and get the in jokes and all the popular cultural references and the um, classical literature references that I drop in.
yeah,
Uh, they're kind of equal between pop culture and classic literature. One of my first editors was questioning, "Oh, what does this mean?" And I go, "Oh, well, that refers to this book from the 1800s. No, no, excuse me, it was the 1700s." And she goes, "What? Oh, yeah. This is part of this popular mythology here that it figured in really good and contributed to this other thing that's world famous because the author of that used this for reference to plot out his. I do that stuff all the time, and my education is not the greatest in the world. I am rather widely read, but not as much as a lot of people that I know,
yeah.
uh, which still sounds like I'm bragging, but I'm not trying to.
No, but
I,
you
I
have
read
to.
a lot. I have always read a lot, and thankfully, I soaked it up like a sponge. And sometimes something from 50 years ago comes up in a bit of conversation between two characters that have nothing to do with whatever it was from 50 years ago, but they mention it
Yeah.
or have a name associated with it or something like that. I'm going to have to go and hit the necessary. I'll be right back if you can wing it for a couple of minutes.
Okay. I will see what I can do.
Oh, righty.
In the meantime. Oh, well, so far we have talked about animals, farm equipment, um, riders, couple of movie and show references, and probably another thing or two that has eluded me at the moment because it is getting late. But we're having fun and hope you're enjoying watching this. Nita, if you're still watching, thank you for joining in. Mike, Jimmy, Delorcia, thank you for watching. And Josh, I hope you have a good night too. Thank you for popping in and saying hi. Um, didn't get a chance to mention it because it was mentioned on Stupid O'Clock earlier. There was actual event in Cleveland, Tennessee, Saturday called the Bacon Festival, and they had various um, food trucks and trailers there that had menu items that featured bacon in them, and they had some other events going on there. They had a little area for kids to have pony rides. Um, there were there was a stage there where they had some people performing music, and there was a comedian uh, who did a act uh, earlier today, and it was a pretty day, although it was cold and windy, and but the food was nice and warm, and it was my first time going. Apparently, it was the fourth year that they've done this, and it was it was an experience that was definitely worth going to. Like I said, I wish it would weather would have been a little warmer, but like I said, they had various people out there, food trucks and trailers that had menu items featuring bacon and
Okay.
various
now,
sauce
now
for
I'm caught up.
fish.
I thought you were talking about the bacon festival.
Yeah,
I
it
hope
was
you
the
had a good time.
it was the first time I went. Apparently, this was the fourth year they'd had it,
Oh, wow. Well,
and
bacon sells out fast. No wonder you didn't get there in time before.
well, I couldn't get going because I had a late night last night at work. But
Mm, I know how that is.
there was an Asian food truck there that
Okay.
had a sweet chili stir fry that had bacon bits in it. It was really good.
Oh, it sounds it. It sounds it. Um,
And I didn't see where it was, but there was this one guy walking around that had like a plate that was like it looked like 2.5, 3 inches high of bacon, where he was just taking the bacon off of it and putting it in his mouth.
I
And I was
thought
like,
I
I
thought you
hate
were going
that.
to say you was just going to pass it out to the crowd, but no, this was his.
Yes, this was his. I don't know which one he got it from. I
I'm
was
surprised he
trying to
didn't get
stay.
mugged.
I was trying to stay out of the wind because it was really cold with that wind blowing. I mean, it was a pretty day. I mean, sun was shining, and it was held at excuse me, what they call the Tri-State Expo Center,
Hmm.
and it's basically one of those places where they do cattle shows and events like that. And they had an open air arena and it, you know, dirt floor, so the horses and all can do that. And there was a little area where they had ponies saddled up where kids could do pony rides, and there was also a stage there where they had a couple music acts, and then they had a comedian doing a show. And you also had the opportunity to win free bacon for a year. Now, how much bacon that actually entailed, because there's probably some people that could eat twice their body weight in bacon if it came down to it, and I'm sure they wouldn't allow that much bacon to be provided for free.
No, it would probably be about a pound a week or something like
Yeah.
that, which
Or
would be
maybe if they
totally
were
inefficient.
generous, 2 pounds a week.
Yeah, now that's more reasonable,
Yeah.
uh, depending on your habitual breakfast.
Yes.
Now, Lindsay got up this morning and she had cooked hash browns and scrambled eggs and link sausage and had me a plate in the microwave because she knows when I get up, coffee is the only thing on my mind,
Hmm.
food wise,
Yeah.
until I've had 2 or 3 cups of coffee and actually get my brain kick started and get my metabolism working on something besides oxygen and caffeine.
Yeah.
I am not going to eat except when I'm at work and it turns 9 o'clock. I'm going to go eat breakfast because
Yeah.
that's break time. And after 44 years, almost 45 years in the factory, my break times have been programmed in.
Yeah. My grandfather, yeah, he got break every 2 hours at work, so he thought he had to eat a little something every 2 hours at work.
Well, studies have shown that small meals spaced out every 2 to 4 hours are actually healthier for you than
Hmm.
a big breakfast, a big lunch, and a big dinner and nothing else during the day. I don't know why this is. Maybe it's easier for your body to process small amounts, uh, not that far apart, but not real far apart,
Yeah.
versus huge amounts, 6 hours apart or 8 hours apart, depending
Yeah.
on your work schedule. But yeah, break times have been programmed in, which uh, I have been trying to get away from since I have been on daytime only. That way, I don't have to worry about being hungry at 9 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, and 4 in the morning
Mm-hmm.
when I'm trying to be asleep, unless I'm on this show and it's going entirely too well. Uh, we have pulled all nighters before, have we not? You and I.
Oh yeah, it hasn't been often, but we have done it a time or two.
Oh yeah. Well, uh, I'm just glad this is Saturday night and not Sunday night.
Yeah.
But there has been many a Friday morning when my alarm goes off and I go, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But I've only got um 22 more months and 2 weeks, but I will retire and except at conventions or other special occasions, I will never have to hear the dulcet tones of an alarm clock going off again. And I am glad the fellow's name was Alexander Graham Bell. I would not have wanted his name to be Alexander Graham Siren because the telephone is intrusive enough as it is.
Yes, it is.
Lindsay's already wanting to get rid of the landline, which I'm contractually obligated to retain
Mm-hmm.
because of work. They have to have a landline number that they can call you in for emergency overtime. That has been the policy. Even though nowadays a lot of people don't have landline phones, they just have their cell phones.
Exactly.
But that line has never been taken out of the contract I signed. They may have modified the contract for the younger generations that are being hired now,
Mm-hmm.
but they have never taken it out of the contract that I signed. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the company is over 200 years old, so you can't expect them to be that progressive. They've kind of
Yeah.
set in their ways, you know. They'll make up new rules, but they're not going to change the old ones. Uh, they were there for a reason. Uh,
Yep.
but I'm greatly looking forward to not having to wake up with an alarm clock anymore. Uh, I probably will spend the first month sleeping till afternoon, but I'll be staying up way after midnight every night. And not just because I am on a show, but when I am writing and the words are flowing, I do not want to go to bed. I will type until I pass out at the keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
And I have gotten up the next day. I won't say morning, but the next day, and pulled up the word processor file and try and do a little bit of editing, read back through what was the last thing that I wrote so I could get back into the groove, right back into the story at that point. And there are plenty of occasions when I have looked at the words that appeared on the screen and go, who wrote that? I don't remember doing that. I mean, it's good, but I don't remember doing it. Yeah.
That
Uh,
was when the muse takes over.
yeah. It's just the words go straight from your brain into your fingers and do not pass the intervening territory. Uh, yeah. When things are actually working, and I expect any writer would be able to say the same thing.
Yeah. Well, actually, speaking of muses, um, I know it wasn't very popular back when it came out, but I've always enjoyed it.
Hmm.
I don't know if you ever watched the musical Xanadu. with Olivia Newton-John in it.
Yeah.
Well, apparently she's one of the muses.
Oh, okay.
And it starts out, one of the opening scenes has got ELO playing all over the world, and it's got all of her sisters and her on roller skates going around all over LA. It's actually pretty good, and it's one of Gene Kelly's last roles.
Yes. I was very glad that he got to do that.
And that, interestingly enough, she was involved with John Beck, who was her fellow headlining co-star. But um, one of the guys in one of the smaller roles is one of the skaters slash dancers at the nightclub
Hmm.
was Matt Latanzi, and she's the one that she eventually married and had our daughter Chloe by.
Oh, okay.
And the experimental band in electric orange jumpsuits and work suits was actually the Tubes.
Oh, okay. That I did not know. Although they have had a long and varied career.
Yeah. And anyway, I thought you'd get a kick out of that because I know you know who the Tubes are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Actually, one of my buddies from high school introduced me to their work back um, before we graduated. So it was before 1975.
Interestingly enough, their biggest hit was probably She's a Beauty, that was released around 83.
Yep.
But my favorite song by them, which is hard to find on any of their albums, was actually featured on the Modern Problems soundtrack. Gonna get it next time.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say White Dopes on Punk.
No, but yeah, they definitely did the progressive rock experimental uh, stuff early on in their career.
Yep. They
I would.
were big into costumes and special effects on stage during live performances,
Mhm.
and I was very surprised to show to see them on MTV with the "She's a Beauty" video because I thought they were going to be too experimental for MTV, and turns out
Yeah,
they fit in rather well.
yeah, but they didn't really have anything else that was that.
Mainstream.
Yes, I was going to say pop worthy, but that's not really the word I was looking for. Mainstream, but that is a much better word. Thank you.
Yeah, that era they were showing all kinds of stuff, music videos that were mainstream, but not necessarily pop. It was mainstream pop, mainstream rock, mainstream
Yeah,
glam, mainstream heavy metal for the period.
yeah, and mainstream punk
Hmm.
because you had Blondie.
Oh,
I
definitely.
mean,
Al-
um,
Although,
Heart of Glass was kind of pop, but
well,
Rapture
I
was
was
punk.
thinking it's more new wave, but
Yeah,
it, knowing their history, yeah, punk. Uh, if you only knew their radio hits, it would
mm,
be hard to fit them into the image of punk and more easily for them to fit into your mental image of new wave. But
they like they straddled so many areas because they
yeah,
had that was kind of their new wave period, but you had Rapture, which was kind of one of the earlier forms of rap because she actually introduced Fab Five Freddy, who used to host MTV Raps, and of course, Tide is High kind of had that calypso reggae beat to it, and Heart of Glass was kind of pop, new wave rock,
Hmm.
and then you had Call Me, which was kind of edgy hard rock
Yeah,
pop,
really.
and then you had probably some of their later stuff that would probably be considered alternative slash postmodern.
I was see it. I was watching a live video of them here not too long ago, a couple of months, and they obviously had some of their big hits out, and were obviously being followed by the paparazzi and whatnot. And
Mm-hmm.
while they were doing the show, and this was obviously not going to be on TV,
Mm-hmm.
one of the cameramen kept zooming in on her chest
Mm-hmm.
because she was, although not wearing a transparent costume, she was not wearing a bra. And the look on her face, seeing that the camera was not pointed at her face,
Mm-hmm.
was just kind of, well, I suppose it's the same sort of annoyance that any woman would suffer when she knows that she's being ogled instead of appreciated.
Yeah, and yeah, even if I got it, show a little bit of class and respect. Appreciate the whole package, not just one part of it.
Really, her beauty is only part of who she is. You will, this is a performance of her vocal talents,
Yep. And
not
she
her
still
anatomy.
can sing really good
Yeah.
for her age.
Hey,
I mean,
age doesn't have anything to do with talent unless you burn yourself out
well,
while you're
I
still
was thinking
young.
about Pat Benatar. She can't hit the notes like she once did, but that's from years of smoking.
Yeah. Um, you'd be amazed at a lot of things like that. Years of smoking or years of drinking
Yeah,
can
or
destroy
both.
your voice, or both. Yes, can
Yeah.
destroy your voice or your concentration.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or, as in the case of some of the folks out there, um, some really bad traffic accidents
Yeah.
can mess you up, not only
Rick
physically
Allen
but mentally. Yeah.
of Def Leppard. Anyone?
Oh yes. I was amazed he was determined to keep playing drums with one arm, and I
Oh,
go,
his band members were too because they're like, "Oh my God, what are we gonna do?" And he's like, "Ah, guys."
I still got one left, or is it one right?
and and,
Uh,
and, and they were happy.
yeah. Well, I mean, determination makes up for a lot of things. If you can figure a workaround, and you're bound and determined not to let anything get in your way, that's admirable as all get out. You know, if you can make it work, do it.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, yeah. There's only about 20 more. Uh,
Yeah, well, I
that
kind of
that
narrowed it down.
that
I
that
was
that
getting
is
to that point.
that is the big three. Yeah. Uh, sorry, folks. Stuff in private chat. You don't want to know. It would
Yeah,
just bore you. It's not. It's not
yeah.
that.
It's nothing critical. It's trivial, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. And nothing having to do with what we were talking about.
Yeah, and Josh Kemp joined in and wished us a great night, and I thanked him for joining in and wishing us a good night. I don't know if he's still watching or not, but he was nice enough to do it, so I was nice enough to thank him.
Well, thank you.
I hope Nita's still able to watch, and I tried to thank Mike, Jimmy,
Yeah.
but I don't know if they're still watching or not because
Well,
it's
it's early morning for him, so
yeah,
um, damn it, I
it's
can't remember which Scandinavian country he's in, but he's over there. It's Norway, Sweden,
yeah.
Denmark. Damn, that reminds me. There's a writer friend of mine from Denmark that I
Mhm.
need to get in touch with real bad that I haven't heard from in several years. And
Well, hopefully you'll be able to do that.
well, I can't. I've tried the email that I had for him. It's no longer current. So
Yeah.
and Googling does not seem to help. But
Nope.
I can't. The only thing I know of to do now is hire a detective. But
Do you
there's
have any other mutual friends in common?
uh, nobody over there who would be able to keep track of him. So just don't
Well,
know.
I didn't know if you might have somebody stateside that might have some inkling.
Well, I put the word out. If anybody does have a way to contact him, please let him know that I need him to email me. There's
Mm.
a there's an anthology in the works
Oh.
that I it needs two of his short stories,
No.
and in order to put those in, we have to be able to get in touch with him. We have to send him a contract.
Yeah.
We have to be able to pay him.
Yeah.
So without being able to find him,
That's
uh,
going to be difficult.
yep. And it's one of those occasions where, with the subject matter, those two stories are very important.
Mm. Yeah, I can see how you would want to have those in the collection.
Yes.
Um, Darn. Now I'm thinking of stuff to mention to Zach when he was on earlier.
Mm, make notes. I'll wait.
And
Y-
I'll,
Trust me, you're not going to remember this in the morning. You better write it down.
well, I can also put it on the broadcast so you can it can be watched over again and looked up. But I was going to mention about Anne McCaffrey and some other sci-fi authors that we knew, and sci-fi fantasy, and some of their contributions to space lore and other things.
Always loved her books. Her son Todd has shown up at LibertyCon a time or two that I can recall.
Yeah, she has another son, doesn't she? That also writes.
I do not know. I do not know. I unless I actually interact a lot with a writer, I try not to pry into their private life. It's really none of my business.
Yeah, and it wasn't that I, because I never got to formally meet her. I think I saw her from a distance at one, but she had one of those lines because she had a following. I mean, it's just like Larry Niven and Jerry Pournell.
Yep.
They have a line clear across the building, round the block, and you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I remember. I remember that day. Um, me and
and
Jenny. me and Jenny Wirtz were sitting at the autograph table next to Larry and Jerry, and we had like she had like 10, maybe 12 people in her autograph line.
Mm-hmm.
I had maybe four, counting my wife coming up with a blank check so she could buy some jewelry from the vendor's room. And the lines for Larry and Jerry went all the way up this huge room, all the way out the doorway, down the hallway, and out into the street.
Yeah.
And Jenny just looked at me and said, "Well, uh, what are we going to do while they sit there and sign autographs?" I go, "Well, you're an artist. You'll probably draw something. I'm a writer. I'll sit here and whine about nobody paying any attention to me."
One of the nicest authors I ever had the pleasure of speaking with was Mercedes Lackey.
Ah, yes,
I,
indeed.
I got to see her at Worldcon in 2016 when they had it in Kansas City. And, I enjoyed her books, but my mom was like a super fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just telling her, how I loved Arrows of the Queen, which was basically, I think, the first three novels in her Heralds of Valmar
Mm-hmm.
series. And, you know, my mom really enjoyed them and all. And, without me even asking, she had these little bitty, like, I don't know, maybe 2 inch by 2 inch little stickers.
Mm-hmm.
And she just autographed a couple of them, and she says, "Here, give these to your mom. I'd like for her to have them." And just like, she didn't ask me for any money or anything. She said, "I just want her to have these." And I offered to pay, and I know. She said, "You give these to your mother."
That was very sweet.
Yes, like I said, she's one of the sweetest ladies. Another female author I got to talk with a little bit, more in a panel setting than actual 101.
Mm-hmm.
But Jody Lynn Nye, I mean,
Oh, she's amazing.
I mean, she's still a pretty woman and talented and funny and clever.
If she wasn't a writer, she would be hell on wheels as an actress.
Oh man, I mean, like I said, she's a little bit older now, but she's still a knockout. I can just imagine what she was back in when she was even younger.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Fawcett is a lucky guy.
Yeah, I think he knows it too.
Oh yeah, he knows it.
Um,
But it's funny. She's got one of those smiles like, yeah, I know, I still got it. But she's not smug about it. It's just kind of like that. Yeah, I know, but I'm not gonna be you know a jerk about it.
yeah, I was thinking exactly the same words.
And like I said, just a really classic, uh, clever, intelligent.
We have been lucky. We have been really lucky. We have met so many people who write the books that are on our shelves,
Mhm.
and it's you can walk up to them and have a conversation, and there's no huge, great, whopping ego involved.
Yeah,
You don't have to come across as a worshiping fanboy or anything. You're just a normal person,
yeah,
and they're just a normal person. It's just they've been in the business for a while and have had some great measure of success, or in some cases, some small measure of success.
yeah. And although it hasn't been referred to it, I think it's kind of a second golden age, if you will, of science fiction and fantasy that we've been a part of, as readers, and
I would be inclined to call it a third golden age because
Well, yeah.
you start with the 40s and 50s,
Hmm.
and then the 60s through the 80s, and then the 80s through now.
Yeah.
Um, and
Because you got some of that crossover with the 60s and 70s and 80s with present day.
mhm.
I unfortunately, um, I didn't get to be Facebook friends with him because he passed away before he saw my request. But I actually got to go to a panel with Mike Resnick.
Oh yes, I had a whole stack of books that I wanted to get him to sign, and I forgot to take that box with me to the convention.
Yeah,
And
and
not only him, but there were other writers that were going to be there too. I
yeah,
took it. I forgot every book I wanted to get autographed. I had them all in one box, and I did not load it in the car.
but Mike Resnick, that panel that I went to, he was he was very concise, clear, down to earth. I mean, knowledgeable, and I found the panel informative. And as somebody that's written in it and been in the business and knew the business, you could do far worse for trying to find somebody to
Hmm.
open your eyes and let give you info about it.
There was a writers panel I went to that I think it was Eric Flint and David Weber were both on, and they were talking
Mm-hmm.
about how to construct a series of stories and build up a reader's interest
Mm-hmm.
across several volumes. And
Mm-hmm.
it was, I learned a lot that day, believe me.
I
uh,
wish I'd have been in that panel.
yeah. um, I can't remember which one of them it was, but they had a policy of uh, developing a character from introduction in one book to killing them off 3 books later, so that the readers were really invested in these characters by the time
Mm-hmm.
their death happened. So
Yeah,
it was a great impact on the reader because
yeah.
they cared about that character. They're not just, throwaway straw men.
Another panel that I was fortunate enough to be able to sit in was Dragon Con some years ago. Had a Star Wars panel with Star
Hmm.
Wars authors. It was Michael Stackpole,
Oh.
Timothy Zahn,
Hmm.
and Aaron Alston. Uh, talk about talk about one of those panels you wish could go on for about 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
And you get it compressed into 50 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Oh man.
That's why I like to hang around when the writers are between panels
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have any pressing deadline they have to get to.
Mm,
They're trying to relax after
yep.
doing a panel, and the fans are sitting around and they're just shooting a breeze, and it's almost better than a panel,
Mm-hmm.
but the panel is more focused
Yeah.
on at one topic. And when they're relaxing, they don't have to stick to a certain topic. They can pretty much just jump around as to whatever the fancy takes them. Uh,
I, I was going to tell you there's another female author that while I haven't read her books per se, I've been to readings that she's done and have been other panels she done, and she's really you too, Cameron.
yeah, Cameron, thanks for dropping in.
Yeah. Um, Faith Hunter is a
Uh,
delight to be around. funny, witty, clever, uh, good writer, and very, very entertaining.
Hmm. Now, another useful thing about conventions is that you can find out not only the people you want to hang around with and interact with more in the future, but occasionally word gets round, this is somebody you don't ever want to work with.
Yes.
And about the same year, well, exactly the same year, the same convention, I found out that this was a fact.
Mm.
Uh, I was told by somebody who had worked with,
Said
per,
author.
said, well, yeah, said, you know, they are not nice people. They make fun of aspiring writers behind their back, and they write up really nasty contracts that keep the writer from getting paid from being in an anthology that they've worked really hard on a story for.
Wow.
And then they take all the credit and take all the profits.
Yep.
So, no, I'm not ever going to name names, folks. Don't
Yep.
ask.
Yep.
Matter of fact, I can't remember the name. Um,
Somebody you don't want to remember.
well, I remember what they look like, so I may
Mm-hmm.
not remember who they are, but I remember what they look like. Go, I'm going to walk the other way.
Yeah.
But,
Well, hopefully that's few and far between. Um,
yeah, it is really. I mean, it's. I think there's been maybe three people in my life that I have been told to avoid working with for my
wow.
own good, and it's always been by people I have come to trust because I
Mm-hmm.
know what their work is, what they
Yeah.
do, and how decent people, decent a person they are.
Yeah.
So if they say, you don't really, it's not a good move, they'll take advantage of you.
Yeah.
I will stop and listen. I will believe that. So yeah,
Yeah, because they've come by that
they
knowledge
keep,
for a reason, whether it's hard learned experience or somebody they know of that's
and
been there.
in every case, it was hard learned personal experience. Now,
Mhm.
when somebody promises you one thing and delivers far less, word gets around. I mean, the
Yeah.
writing community is not huge, and we talk to each other.
Yep.
And if you screw somebody over, word's going to get out.
Yep.
And eventually, you're going to run out of people willing to take a risk on you.
Yep. And that's not something you want to do is burn bridges.
Mm, nope. You don't want to get into fights. You don't want to burn bridges, and you don't want to go around throwing out casual insults.
Yep.
Not even at an attempt, however poor it may be, at humor.
Mm.
There. Now I'll tell you the opposite end of the spectrum. There are people that I have first met and did not have a high opinion of. Then later on, meet them again, interact with them a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to revise my opinion because they were much better people than I thought they were to start with. I
Yeah.
had I had gotten off with a totally mistaken opinion, And later on, I was lucky enough
Mm-hmm.
to have been corrected.
Yeah. Well, you know, a good portion of these writers are introverted themselves,
Hmm.
so they don't always have the best interaction skills with people unless they really feel comfortable around them, and
That is exactly the truth. Yes. You might think somebody is real snooty and snobbish
Mhm.
and standoffish when all it is they are painfully shy and afraid to talk.
Yeah, some of them almost terrified to talk.
Hmm. And when you are lucky enough to get to know them well enough to where they're comfortable with you
Hmm.
and they start opening up and talk and you can have a conversation, you find out they're not stuck up at all. They're just
Yep.
they're just painfully shy.
Yep. And you get a whole new world opened up to you.
Yep. Yes, indeed. And if you're lucky,
Hmm.
you wind up with a really good friend that you never
Hmm.
had before that day.
Yep. Yeah, I'm hoping for this year's event that I get to interact with people a little more, and hopefully won't be having to address certain issues that pop up so much.
Hmm. Let's hope this year the drink cups don't disappear.
Yeah, well,
Oh Lord! Now what was it? You needed to get into the vendor's room to look for something somebody had lost,
hmm
and I had to go with you as a witness to make sure
hmm
nobody could accuse you of taking something off of some vendor's table.
yeah,
I don't know what it was that whoever they were had lost. I don't remember that. But I
yeah,
knew it was vitally important that both of
hmm
us were in the room at the same time.
yeah. Well, I just liked having that as a comfort factor and a reassurance for whoever was in there. I think most people trust me with stuff like that, but just on the offhand chance that
Yeah,
something
really
comes
good.
up.
If you're in that situation, it pays to have an impartial witness.
Yeah,
You know,
and you know what we did? We went in there, looked around.
didn't find whatever it was we were looking for.
Yep, turned the lights back out, locked it back
Locked
up.
the doors. Yeah, made sure the outside door was locked, and
Yep, yep.
uh,
We try and do the right thing.
I can't believe the whole the whole uh the cooking staff almost came to a halt because the drinking cups had disappeared.
Yeah, I thought we had an extra box that got loaded up, but I wasn't there for the loadout because I was trying to take care of other stuff.
Hmm. It turns out that they never got loaded on the truck.
Yeah,
Nobody had smuggled them out the back door. They
yeah.
just didn't get put on the truck, and they were located eventually, were they not, and brought to the
Yes. Yeah,
convention.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, they did not disappear. They were just missing in action.
That's what happens when you don't get to have a live event in the 2 years.
People get out of the habit of making sure everything on the checklist gets checked out.
Well, and you forget what needs to be on the checklist because you hadn't done nothing in 2 years.
Yep. But
It was kind of a relearning experience for all of us, but we
uh,
overcame and adapted.
it was an absolutely marvelous weekend. I absolutely love it. Lindsay will be with me. Like I told Joe Dog, I sent in the application for the vendor's table today. So I still haven't called for the damn room reservation.
I I I'll do that the next time I'm over there and I get a chance to talk to Shelly or somebody. I meant to do it before now, but it's just been crazy, and it probably will be till
Till it's over.
well for the next month or so. Anyway,
Yep. And the only reason I haven't called myself is because I'm having to work day shift and I'm not supposed to be using my cell phone, even though
yeah, I mean
the
that
younger kids are on them constantly. But I'm of the uh,
doing the right thing even when no one's looking. It's
well,
called
yeah, yeah.
integrity.
It's a rule and I follow it, even though I don't like it
Yeah.
or I'm being inconvenienced by it. I figure it's about like speed limits and wearing your seatbelt.
Ugh.
It's really for my own good.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Of course, we got Easter weekend coming up next weekend.
Hmm.
Um, I got to start getting some yard work done. It's really a little bit cooler than I wanted to fool with
Yeah,
today, and
Lindsay wanted me to get the zero turnout and do the front yard today, but the weather did not cooperate.
and I got a friend that I hadn't seen in a while. I want to go see them the weekend after Easter weekend,
Mm.
and then the next weekend I'm trying to take care of some yard work and do some other stuff. And then I think Mother's Day weekend's the weekend after that,
Hmm. Well,
and then Matrotham. I don't know if you're aware of that one. That's another convention in Chattanooga. They combined Metropolis and Gotham and came up with Matrotham. That's the weekend after Mother's Day weekend.
you could spend an entire year just going to conventions in Chattanooga. It seems like they've got at least two every month.
They There's really like four fairly major ones. You've got Chattacon, you got Conuga, you got Matrotham, and you got Liberty.
Hmm.
You could loosely tie us into Chattanooga since it's in the area that we are close to.
Yeah,
But we're not actually in the city like they are.
yeah.
And then you have other events that they have there.
Outside con.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of more Nashville, but
Oh,
not
really?
Nashville. Yeah, it's in Montgomery Bell State Park.
Oh, okay. I was thinking it was Chattanooga area.
You know,
I guess because Joe likes it so much.
well, Joe likes it. Him and Dutch went up there for years. They've known Bob for years. Bob runs it. Bob comes to Hallowcon oftentimes, but he wasn't able to make it last year. Um, you know, there's it's not necessarily like a 2 day convention, but you have FarleyCon, which is like a comic convention, and there's a couple other
Yeah.
smaller shows in all the area. But like I said, there's four fairly major ones for Chattanooga area, and then you have some in Huntsville.
Hmm.
Um, you have plenty in Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta's got
Oh, gobs and
boatloads of them.
gobs. Yeah. Um,
And then you have other ones all across the southeast. There's several
yeah.
in North Carolina. There's Knoxville. There's Nashville. There's Memphis. Um, you've got Pensacon and Pensacola. You got Gulf Coast Con, which I think's in either Biloxi or Gulfport, Mississippi.
Hmm.
You got Contraflow in New Orleans, which is later in the year, and then you got all the Florida ones, and then
Yeah.
Knoxville's got some stuff, and
The folks from the Legends of the Traveling TARDIS channel have been inviting me to go to one of their favorites in Florida, and I'm just going. That's a long way to go. It's I am no longer a teenager, and
Yeah.
I can't drive for 12 hours without a break anymore.
Yep.
Uh,
And Savannah even has a show or two.
hmm Oh, that would be fun. My niece is down there at an art school, and she's
Savannah College of Art and Design.
I do believe so, and she is hoping when she graduates
Mm-hmm.
to get a job with Disney Studios as an animator.
Oh, cool. Um, there is actual a I don't know if you're familiar with Neutral Zone Studios that did Star Trek Continues, but
I have seen Star Trek Continues. Yes.
they actually have studios in Kingsland, Georgia.
Oh wow,
Yep, and every
that
so often they'll do a fan appreciation weekend, and then there's smaller shows scattered throughout the country, but um, the southeast there's probably 30 shows a month,
hmm
easy if not more. Um,
oh, what is it? The Southern Fandom Resource Guide
yes,
has all of that stuff in great detail, and
if the people running the conventions give them the information, because if they
this
don't
is
know about
true.
it, they cannot
Yep.
print it.
Yep. But anybody watching, if you want to know about any convention in the Southeast, that is one of the first places you go to look.
And when we say southeast, we're talking from Texas all the way up to basically almost Washington D.C. area,
hmm
over to Kentucky and even southern Illinois and Indiana,
hmm
and Nashville, Missouri,
And
Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and
if you're
all
putting
sorts of
on if
states,
you're putting on a convention anywhere in the Southeast,
or close to the southeast. It's usually in there.
please send your information to the Southern Resource.
Southern Fandom Resource Guide.
Yes, it's getting late. Um,
I totally understand.
those folks will do everything they can to provide web space to list and describe everything that you send them about your convention.
Yes, they will.
Contact information, hotel information, whatever.
They will um, list the month that your convention's on, and they'll list the weekend it's on. They will have a link to your website, which hopefully you have a website where people can directly go to it and see what it's all about and if they're interested in it. And your website will hopefully have ways for them to register and make arrangements to contact the hotel and reserve a room and whatever else they need to do.
All right. Well, I got to make one more trip to the necessary, and then we'll have to bring the show to a close because we got like 12 minutes left. Oh, I'll
Yep.
be right back.
Okay, Dan. But yes, the Southern Fandom Resource Guide is an excellent uh, tool to use to find all the various conventions that goes on in fandom throughout the Southeast. Like I said, basically from Texas up to Missouri and over to Illinois, Southern Illinois, and Indiana, Southern Indiana, and Kentucky, and West Virginia, and Virginia, and D.C. area, and everywhere south of that and east of that. Um, there are literally more conventions than you can attend, even if there were three of you. If you had yourself and three clones, you still couldn't go to all of them. There's just that much to do. And of course, it's always fun to see friends that you make at these things and travel to ones that you attend and maybe talk you into traveling to ones that they attend. And it's a great way to meet people, meet authors, meet artists, meet creators, and best of all, you get to travel and maybe see places you hadn't seen before, and experience some things that you haven't done before, like maybe eating at a restaurant that is local to that area, or seeing some parks or attractions that are in that area. I was talking about how much fun it is to meet people and become friends with them, and travel to maybe conventions that they regularly attend, and they come to ones that you regularly attend. And it's a great way to interact and, of course, meet authors and artists and creative types. And
A great example of that was a lot of people from Rising Tide Broadcast Network showed up at Hallowcon last year, and we got a chance to meet them. And uh, someplace besides on the screen, like we're doing right now, it's just absolutely fabulous people. And you know who you are. Oh, Lord. And not only did you
yes,
get to meet them, but you got to meet their support staff, as it were, spouses and whatnot. And
significant others and fellow friends and fellow creative types.
yeah, I think that was one of the highlights there, being able to meet so many folks that I had only interacted with on screen before.
Well,
And
it is so much fun dealing with Carl and Donna, and then Brian K. Morris and Cookie were a delight to meet. And
and Michaela,
yes,
Lord,
Michaela was cool as hell to meet. I mean,
oh
she's
yeah, yeah. I mean, you think she's cool to be on screen with in a chat show, but no, in person she's even cooler.
yeah.
Well, that same thing for Brian and Cookie, same thing for Carl and Donna. Um, hell, same thing for you and John. You know,
Well, the funny thing is, um, got to see Brian relax a little bit. I mean, he's still full of energy, and I don't know what Cookie puts in his coffee, but whatever it is, that stuff's the thing of legend.
mhm. Oh,
Because he
wait,
goes
wait till this year. Ted
kudos.
and Christine are going to be there. They're trying to talk Keisha into coming.
Yep, it would be cool to meet
It's
Keisha.
it's going to be a rising tide convention, basically.
Well, yeah, I mean, considering we're already part of it,
Yeah, yeah. Right at the beginning of the show, I played a little advert for Rising Tide, but the schedule has changed so much in the last 2 years.
oh
I
my
have to
goodness,
update that video.
they're still making changes. I mean, they'll be doing a show and then like, hey, we got this in common. We could do this. We're going to replace this show with this show, and you're trying to keep track of it all.
Mhm.
It's
Yep. I have become the de facto graphic artist for the schedule card.
yeah.
That's just because I
Nobody
use
else has time to deal with it.
I use Excel spreadsheets so much at work that it was
Mhm.
nothing. It took absolutely less than a day for me to type all the stuff out and then have it to where you can go back in and edit it quickly and then re-upload it and let everybody grab a copy for their own shows. And then I had the bright idea to do little 2 minute adverts here for the for Stupid O'Clock and for Last Man Standing,
Mhm.
and wrote the music to go behind it and all this other, and it takes me more time to update the videos than it
Mhm.
does for me to update the schedule.
Yeah.
And then I've got to re-upload, and that doesn't take an awful lot of time. But when as I have been busy trying to finish a book and get it off to the publisher,
Mhm.
I can't justify taking the time to do um, what amounts to uh, personal stuff.
Yeah. I I totally get it. I mean,
Yeah, I
when
mean,
your job is keeping you busy and you are working for extended periods of time during the week, it's yeah, you basically have a little bit of time where you go home, try and unwind, finally go to sleep, and then you're back up and at it again the next morning.
and I'm of the age where I come home from work in the afternoon and start checking my email, and then wake up after an unexpected and unplanned and unwanted nap.
Hmm.
And then I've got to go to bed early enough to get up when the alarm clock goes off the next day.
Hmm.
Because no matter what I do at night, during the week, that alarm clock is still going to go off at the same time every morning. And I cannot hit the snooze. I've got to get up right then. Otherwise, I get behind the 40-mile-an-hour school bus and I'm going to be late to work.
Yeah, sorry, I was thinking I can't remember the name of the movie, but there's this movie where this chicken is like uh cockle doodle doo and at like wee hours in the morning, and this person's trying to take out the chicken with like a rock or whatever. And finally starts grabbing a gun, and the next day it's still back at it.
Hmm.
I wish I could remember the name of that movie, but I feel like that sometimes. Definitely feel
There
like
was a writer I was going to recommend to you. Um, uh, he spells his last name rather oddly. Uh, Hang on a minute. I
that.
just got to stand up and turn around and look at the bookshelf behind me.
Okay.
You'd think it would be simple, but it isn't.
Mm,
His name is Jasper Ford, Forde.
okay. So two
Now,
F's and an E after the D.
hmm
Okay.
now he writes stuff which is um, every bit as good as Terry Pratchett and Douglas Adams, but almost all his jokes in the books are literary references.
Okay. Cool.
So if you are widely read, especially in the fantasy genre,
Mm-hmm.
uh, this will be just really, really entertaining. If you are not widely read in the fantasy genre, then it'll still be funny as all get out because it's got some awesome adventure type sequences, and there
Mm-hmm.
are sort of sideways in time stuff. Basically, let me tell you, they're the main character can actually go from the real world into a book
Oh,
and interact with the characters.
cool.
And there are other people that are trying to disrupt the actual flow of these books
Mm-hmm.
and edit them for their own reasons and change the books, which will
Oh,
alter reality.
dang.
So imagine what kind of shenanigans that you can get along.
And consequences.
Yes. Um, I really highly the heroine of the book or the set of books. Her name
Mm-hmm.
is Tuesday Next,
Okay, cool. I
and
will definitely have to look that
oh,
up the
please
next
do,
time
please
I'm.
do. Check that out. You will love it. You will absolutely love it. And to our audience, I would highly recommend it too. It's incredibly funny. It's incredibly witty, and it's a whole lot of fun. And believe it or not, it's a literary, not literal, but literary police procedural.
That does sound interesting.
It's I've never seen a genre like it's almost its own genre. I've never seen anything like it before.
Cool. All
All right.
right. On that note, I guess we'll bring this show to a close because it is that time.
It is after the hour. We have managed to fill up 2 hours, and we've had a great time and
Yep.
touched an awful lot of subjects.
That's
And
nothing new.
no, that's pretty much a given for us. So,
Yeah, just turn us loose and see what happens.
yeah, really, light the blue touch paper and stand well back.
All right, Dan. Have a good night and a good week coming ahead. Hopefully, I will get a chance to drop in Thursday night. We'll see what happens depending on how
Right.
work is.
Well, thanks for being here tonight, and thank you for everything you do. And y'all watching, thank you.
Yep.
Uh, I never say this, but you go ahead and click like, click subscribe, hit the little bell icon, and click on get all notifications, and you'll find out when I have totally screwed up and run Saturday night show on Thursday or something similar, or when
Live a little. You'll enjoy it.
really.
All
Thank
right.
you
Good
very
night.
much, folks. Good night. Oh, and I guess it's time to tell the story, and it's not about a man named Jed.